What's cracking, people? It's your man Cousin T, representing high-level technicians operating globally and beyond. So listen, obviously I opened my browser earlier today and I see the video from Ron Wells about Alpha Showpieces. And I'm like, oh, here we go. He's gone and opened the floodgates. Let's get into it. I can definitely appreciate the introduction that Ron provided for it. And again, I want to thank him for providing the platform and space for me to come in with my experience and explain the process that I go through with men of that caliber and transforming them from raw figures and to high-level technicians and highly functioning Alpha Showpieces. But for now, let's just get into the response. So clearly there's so much that can be covered, but I want to try to condense this down and make it applicable to modern times. But anybody who knows me and who has gone through one of my sessions understands that I like to give history and background behind concepts that I introduced. So really briefly, the history behind the concept of the Alpha Showpiece goes back to a time when the originals, and we all know who the originals are, the masculine men, the men who are these hulking figures, the men who don't really need an introduction. All they need to do is walk into a space and immediately and capture the energy. All the eyes shift towards them. Women lose their thoughts, and men study to see how they hold their frame, how they carry their posture, how their neck is up, their chin is up, their back is straight, their shoulders are out, their chest is forward. But what happens is when I go into the breakdown of the Alpha Showpiece, what this ultimately is going to do is create a space for multiple other vehicles. And I want to touch on this really quickly. The Alpha Showpiece can be almost the equivalent to a trophy wife, or that man that an existing wife points out to her husband and says, that would be my hall pass. Basically, the Alpha Showpiece is a woman's hall pass. The showpiece is that guy who has everything that makes a woman's ovaries completely do the mamba dance. Okay, let's just be real. At the end of the day, and this will be another video, these are the type of men who, if they interact with a woman more than twice, she is the one who will propose to them. Trust me, I know it. I'm going to make a video on it. Stay tuned. But going further, the Alpha Showpieces, or the ASPs, they have historically been those men among men. The men who, when they were in a town or a village or a space, they were the ones who, as they walked through the squares or they walked through the towers, they would get showered with the best of everything. They would get the finest robes, they would get the finest oils, they would get the first fruits, they would get the biggest piece of chicken, if you would, if you're going to reference Chris Rock. But above all else, they would get the pick of the women. Women would literally throw themselves at these men, at the feet of these men. And this is one of the things that supported harems back in the day. And quiet as kept, we've got virtual harems happening all around us today. That's also another video. I'll blame Ron for opening up this camera. But anyway, just to wrap up the history real quick, these are the men with the raw genetic potential that had them growing into giants and the Nephilim, if you will. These are the ones that when the original colonizers would see them as babes or boys, they would castrate them physically, and these would be the eunuchs that would protect the harem of the king that would protect the palace women, because though the men in power back then knew and understood that these physical specimens could magnetically draw in all of the women around them by their sheer size and their sheer presence and the energy that they put across, like the "don't fuck with me" energy that they would pronounce, that would be pronounced even before they entered a space. That "don't fuck with me" energy, or that big dick energy, would be radiating from these men even before they walked into a room. And that's why the captors of the days of old would castrate these genetic marvels in their infancy. Fast forward to the modern times, and to reference again my series on the case for Pookie and Ray Ray, these are the specimens that grow up in the urban spaces. Okay, these are the raw specimens that contain that genetic material that make those #1 draft picks after coming from the hood and the ghetto, that make all of the teams, and that make the workers in the construction field, and the firemen, and the heroic men of stature. This is why the modern day Carltons, which will be another video series, try to financially castrate the ASPs, or the Alpha Showpieces. So, moving forward, what happens is when an Alpha Showpiece shows up in my world, again, just to give you some background, and I'll link my intro video down below. What I do, I take the raw material. I look for the men, preferably, I want to say 5'8" and above. Well, I would say at 5'10", but I would go as low as 5'8" if he has that raw genetic material in his presence. If he's got the body, if he's got that V taper, if he's got the back, if he's got the chest, if he's got the arms, if he's got specific genetic markers that pronounce him as a specimen or a showpiece, then I will bring him on with the team, depending on what type of presentation we're doing. If we're doing a stage show, if we're doing a bar hosting, sometimes we do movie premieres, and basically my role is to set them up with choreography, how they should move when they're in a space, how they should stand, how they would be dressed, how they don't look at the women, look past the women like they got better shit to do. These are the elements. These are some of the elements that I put together when I see the raw specimens. Because even though a man has that raw genetic material and the energy of an ASP or an Alpha Showpiece, does not mean that he has the intelligence or the social understanding of how to navigate that space. See, historically, Alpha Showpieces, all they had to do was show up, and a lot of times today that is the case as well. But what happens is, in a society like ours, in this modern space, there's a lot of socialization projects going on that look to emasculate the strongest among us. And so a guy can be an ASP or an Alpha Showpiece and not even realize it, because his mind or his social capability or his financial capability have all been castrated. So my role, my responsibility, is to hold up a mirror to this guy and say, hey, you are the prize, you are the showpiece, and let me show you and develop the way of the showpiece, okay? And basically, without getting too far into that Patreon territory, hint, hint, this is the mantra that I go by when I get a group of guys who are going through a program or system that I've developed. This is what I say to them. I said, I only want the men who are built for this line of work, because not everybody is built for exotic entertainment, presenting to women, dancing, or negotiating your presence for currency. And I say, this is what I want. I want knuckle dragging, pussy grabbing, hella savage soul snatchers. Pause and let that marinate for just 2 seconds. Alright, I'm gonna say it again. I'm looking for knuckle dragging, pussy grabbing, hella savage soul snatchers. And by the time you're done with my coaching, that is what I present to an audience. Now that's just one half of the Alpha Showpiece presentation. The second half will come very short.